Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a hot minute because the month of March I have been absolutely rubbish at uploading on YouTube. I don't really know why, but I just have been terrible. That is going to change in April. But this, as always, is my favourite video of the month. I absolutely love doing a reading wrap up because I just love to look back on what I've read, what kind of month I've had, and I just love to talk about all the books I've read and if I recommend them to you or not. So I'm not going to carry on talking. Let's just get straight into the wrap up. I'm going to start with my physical books and then I'll go into what I read on my Kindle. I think this month we've had a total of 15 books and one of them was a 5-star read. But overall, it's been a very good month, so let's just go. Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. This has kind of like just been popping off all over TikTok recently. So I really wanted to read it, see if it lived up to the hype. For me, it didn't, but I had a good time reading this. I read it pretty quickly because I was just into it. It was flowing, I was gripped. The main like theme of this story is grief. And I think the grief was written really, really well, but that might be triggering for some people, so bear that in mind. But our female main character has lost her best friend and she is grieving so badly. And she's kind of like she does like part-time nannying as a job. And there's this little girl that she's like nannying for. And while she's doing that, she meets the little girl's uncle and they become friends. They form a friendship and it kind of goes from there. This book is very cute and it's very slow burn and it is good. It just didn't live up to the hype for me. I think I had too high expectations for it, but overall it was good. Story of My Life by Lucy Score. I was so excited for this release because Lucy Score is one of my favourite authors. I love the Knock 'Em Out series especially. And yeah, I just absolutely love Lucy Score, so I was so excited for this. I, again, did enjoy this, read it in a 24-hour period, so obviously, you know, I was having a good time. It had a lot of Lucy Score's usual, like, really good banter between the two main characters. This book follows our female main character who is an author, and also she's just, like, going through a bit of a rough patch in her life, and she is kind of in a bit of a writing slump, and she thinks the cure to that writing slump is going to be to, like, move to a really, really small town, and, like, that's exactly what she does. And there the house that she moves to, it needs to be done up because it's an absolute mess. So the contractor that is working on her house is the grumpy to her sunshine, and that's where we just go from there really. And yeah, it was funny, it was cute, it was spicy, but for me, I just didn't feel the chemistry between the two main characters. Like I didn't really buy into their love story. So for that reason, it didn't really hit for me, but I just know that book 2 in this series is going to be so good. I just know it because it was hinted at like who the next book is going to be about, so I just know that I'm going to love the next book. But yeah, this was kind of fun but average, I would say. Beautiful Exile by Catherine Cowles. This is the 4th book in the Sparrow Falls series. I am absolutely loving this series. Catherine Cowles is a small town romantic suspense author and she knows her stuff. She writes that genre so well. In this book, we've got our female main character, Arden, who has basically been living in this small town for years and years, hiding away from the trauma of her past life. And we've met her in the previous book. She's one of the siblings. And in this particular book, she meets Link. Link is one of her brother's best friends, and he is a billionaire, and he's kind of like basically living next door. Anyway, I can't really say much more other than that without like spoiling things and also spoiling like the previous books in this series if you're going to read those. So I'll kind of leave that where it is, but it is a small town romantic suspense. There's like mystery elements into it. So it's really fun. It's really fast paced. It's just bingeable. The whole series is really, really bingeable. I absolutely love it. I think there's going to be 2 more books in this series, so I can't wait for those. If you haven't read this series, you absolutely need to, especially if you like small town romance. Wild Side by Elsie Silver. This was actually the pick for my book club's March read, so that was really fun to read that. My book club is on Fable. I'll pop it here if you want to join us. So Wild Side is the 3rd book in the Rose Hill series, and this series for me it's not been hitting the spot that I wanted it to hit. Like the Gold Rush Ranch series by Elsie Silver and the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver gave me like a certain feeling, but this series has not been giving me that feeling. However, this book was where it all changed. This is the 3rd book and it's by far my favourite out of this series. by far my favourite. So this book follows Tabitha. We met her in the first 2 books, and Reese. And Tabitha's sister passed away, meaning that Tabitha was like, oh, right, okay, well, I'm going to take on my nephew. But stuff happens where Reese kind of has a bit of custody of Tabitha's nephew because Reese used to live next door to Tabitha's sister. Anyway, that's a whole palaver. It's marriage of convenience. Both of the main characters are very fiery, very witty, like, they're just at each other's throats. They really, really do not get on at first. I wouldn't call it enemies to lovers, but at first, when they're just going through some shit, they're just not really getting on. They're both very fiery, very funny. There's so much banter. There's so much tension. There's a lot of chemistry. It was just brilliant. It was just really, really so brilliant. The only thing that did put me off, and you'll know about this, it's not a spoiler, but Reese's job is that he's a wrestler. So imagine like WWE and how cringy it is. That's his job, and it gives me the ick a little bit. But if it wasn't for that, this probably would be a 5-star read. I don't really do like ratings anymore, but this was very, very close to a 5-star feeling. It was just the best in the series. I loved it so much. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. So this book, I'm going to be honest with you from the get-go, this is accidental pregnancy trope. I know that a lot of people don't like this trope, but I actually think even if you don't like that trope, you should give this book a go because I really, really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. The writing was so good, and I have read another book by this author and actually DNF'd it, hated it, and it was called Next of Kin. So I thought I'm probably never going to read anything by the author again, but I really, really just wanted to give this book a chance because I've seen it. It's just such a popular like BookTok book, and I'm so glad that I did because it didn't disappoint at all. It's so cute, it's so romantic. It's also friends to lovers. They basically, the 2 main characters meet through like mutual friends. They both have disabilities. So as you can see from the cover, Bo has got a prosthetic leg and Win has got, if you can see there, her hand. So they have a lot in common on that front, and it's really, really beautiful to see the way they deal with that and how they like really, really don't let it affect their life, and they don't want it to like define them, but also they're not ashamed of it. It's just really, really nice. Loads of banter, loads of fun. It's just really, really great. Like, I don't really know what else to say about it other than I had a great time reading it. I loved the writing, I loved the characters. I just thought it was brilliant, and I think you should read it. This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. Bit odd that I read this in March when it's literally not summer at all, but still had a good time reading it. So this is Best Friend's brother, and the story is told like past and present point of views across like 5 summers. I think it's 5 summers across a couple, like each summer from a couple of years anyway. I thought the writing was great. I thought the story was great. I had a really, really good time reading it. I liked the characters. The only thing I'm going to say is that I think I don't like the best friend's brother trope or brother's best friend trope or whatever anymore, because I just find it so ridiculous. Like, it's basically a whole book of them, like, not even just this book, but in general with that trope, the whole book is always basically just them scared to tell the best friend that they've got feelings for their brother. But like, if you could just, if it's really your best friend, you just sit down and have a conversation like, oh, by the way, I'm in love with your brother. Sorry, I know that's weird, but you know what I mean? Like, if it's your best friend, you'd communicate that. Why is there like 400 pages of not being able to have that conversation with your best friend? And I know books are like, obviously, it's fictional, but it's so like beyond stupid to me. I just hate it, to be honest. It just really annoys me. But I did enjoy this book, so, you know, read it. I think definitely good for a summer vibe as well. If you want a holiday read, highly recommend. And the last of the physical books was The Rebel Witch by Kristen Cicciarelli. I don't really know what to say about this duology. So this follows on from The Crimson Moth, and it's just the 2 of them. It's just a duology. So I started reading this book and was like, not really into this. Then the middle bit, I was like, oh my god, I'm loving it. This picked up so much. This is brilliant. I love it. The tension, the banter, the high stakes, amazing. And then the end of the book, I was like, underwhelming. So kind of just mixed feelings about it, really. Again, can't really tell you too much of what this is about because it would spoil the first book, but our female main character is a witch and our male main character is a witch hunter. So do with that what you will. Overall, the duology it's a good time. I wouldn't really rant and rave about it. Wouldn't really, you know, probably won't really think about it or ever reread it. But it was fine. Now let's get into what I read on my Kindle. So I was lucky enough to get an arc of Cover Story by Vari McFarlane, and this comes out in May. For Vari McFarlane is slowly but surely becoming a top author of mine. Her writing style reminds me of Emily Henry's writing style, where it's really slow burn. It has like an emotional depth to it, but there's also like so much banter and witty dialogue between the two main characters. So it just really does give off Emily Henry vibes. I will say as well, a big reason I loved this particular book was because it's set in Manchester, so I knew like loads of the places that they were talking about, and I just really, really liked that because I don't think I've read a book set in Manchester before, and as you'll know, I am from Manchester, so I just loved it. This book is basically, I was going to say workplace rivals, but I don't really think it is. I don't really think I would call it that. We basically got our two main characters both work for this newspaper. Our male main character is an intern, our female main character is like a journalist, and for an article that she is writing, she basically has to go undercover. It's like a bit of a secret mission, and she's kind of doing it on the down low. And the female main character kind of sees her out and about putting on this like undercover act that she was putting on. So then he kind of gets dragged into it, and they have to fake date as a result of that. So yeah, it's fake dating. It's kind of workplace rivals to lovers, I guess. It's very slow burn, it's very funny, it's very cute. The tension was burning off the pages. I absolutely loved it. I had such a good time. If you haven't read anything by Vari McFarlane, you just absolutely need to. But yeah, I loved this book. Pre-order it. I read City of Lies and Legends by Kayla Edwards, which is the third book in the House of Devils series. I'm sure in a previous video I've been absolutely going on about City of Gods and Monsters, which is book 1 in this series. I absolutely adore that book so much. I love that book. I loved book 2 and I loved book 3. Book 3 I think was a lot longer. It felt like I was reading it for a long time. I don't know if it needed to be that long. It was probably my least favourite out of the series so far, but with that being said, I still highly recommend this series. I still loved it. I still had a good time. I just think out of the 3, that might be my least favourite. Again, because it's book 3 in a series, can't tell you too much about it without having spoiled the rest. So I will say maybe look through my previous videos or look on my TikTok if you do want to know kind of what the series is about. But it is an urban romantasy. And it's so good. It is so good. The male main character, Darian Cassell, is like up there in my top 5 book boyfriends of all time. So there's that. I read The Lovely Return by Carrie Cole. This is an age gap taboo romance. And I am saying that, but to me, I actually think it read like a magical realism. I don't think it's marketed as that, and I don't think it is that, but to me, that's how it read. And in this book, we've basically got this little girl called Penny, and from the moment she's born, basically, and as she's growing up, when we first start the book, she's 6 years old, and she keeps getting drawn to this house and this dog and this man, and she's like, that's my home, like, that's where I live, that's where I live. Like, she's got this obsession. For no one knows why really, but she's got this obsession with this house and this man and this dog. And this man, he's in like his 20s, and she keeps like turning up at his house because they live like nearby, they're like neighbours kind of. And he thinks that she's going through something bad at home, so he kind of just like takes her under his wing, like he just looks out for her, like he's just there for her. That's kind of that. And the story develops from there. Now, I know what you're thinking, that sounds absolutely weird. The book starts, she's 6 and he's in his 20s. I know, I felt the same way. But I actually read this book as part of another video that you'll see probably this week coming up or whenever. But yeah, I will say they then meet again in the future when she is of legal age. So just bear that in mind. It was really unique actually. It was not like anything I've ever read before. It was a very unique reading experience, and the writing was really, really good. I would definitely be keen to read something else by this author. But like I say, if you like taboo age gap romance, give it a try. I'm very weird about things like when we start a book and we've got a main character that's a literal child. I find it hard to look past that, me personally. But I did like the writing, and it was very unique and very interesting. I did read it in 24 hours because I was absolutely gripped. So do with that information what you will. My 5-star read of this month was Blood and Steel by Helen Shearer. This is a romantasy, and I'm going to try and explain this. We've basically got Our female main character, she lives in this place called Thesmar, and in this place, women are forbidden from having weapons because of a prophecy that was told years prior. So women are not allowed to have weapons, they're not allowed to fight, like that's kind of just it, that's how things go. But our female main character, Thea, she wants to become one of the war swords, and the war swords are like the best warriors, fighters in their world, and she trains in secret basically. She's like trying to teach herself how to fight and teach herself how to like use a weapon and stuff like that. Anyway, basically, stuff happens, won't go into it, stuff happens, and Thea basically has to go through an initiation if she wants to be able to fight and be a warrior. And so as part of that initiation, obviously you've got trials, you've got tasks, you've got fighting scenes, you've got battle scenes, you've got a war sword that's basically like, she's like his apprentice kind of in a way, like he's kind of teaching her, helping her, and yeah. He's hot, she's hot. There's a lot of tension between them. There's a lot of banter between them. So yeah, it's slow burn, romantic. It's really unique. It's really fun. It's really intense. It's so good. I absolutely loved it. And I straight away started reading book 2. I've not finished that yet, but I straight away went to book 2. It's just great. You should definitely read it. I absolutely loved it. I also read The Favourites by Lane Fargo. If you are on BookTube or BookTok, then you will know about this book because it has been everywhere. You can't escape it. And it's basically about the rise and fall of these two ice skaters, but they were also in a relationship, and it's told like kind of, you'll get a chapter that's like documentary style, like interviewing characters that were there and that knew what happened, and then you'll get a chapter like in the actual moment, like from the female main character's point of view of like that actual event happening and how it actually happened. This for me was a very difficult read because it's so toxic, like just so toxic. It was just all the characters putting each other through so much trauma that I found it hard to read about. I didn't like reading it. I was intrigued and I was interested and I really wanted to know where it was going to go, but I found it so difficult to read about all this just pain they were putting each other through. They were so horrible. At first, I thought the female main character was just an absolute selfish cow, which she was. She was so selfish and just like not nice. And then as the book went on, the male main character, the things he did to her, like there was just one scene, I can't tell you what it is obviously because it's a spoiler, but oh, it was just really, really hard to read. I hated it. It was just like, oh, yeah. So for me, this book was a letdown, but I can see why people like it. I know I'm like contradicting myself, but I can see why people like it. It's very interesting and it is very unique, but me personally, it was not for me. I read book 2 of the Rosewood River series by Laura Pavlov. I have always loved Laura Pavlov as an author. She writes small town romance, but this series for me, like the first 2 books, the first one and this one, I've not really enjoyed. They've not really had any impact on me. This one is a fake dating, and it's one of those where she's there for like a certain amount of time, but like, you know, she's gonna move away at the end. And it's like, oh, well, we can't have anything serious because you're going to move away. And you know what I mean? It's just like really, really predictable. I feel like it's a book that I've read 100 times. It was fun, really easy to read. It was fine if you want like a quick, easy, small town romance that you don't need to think about. But I haven't thought about it since I finished reading it. Didn't really care about it. It's not really had an impact on me. So not really something that I would really go out of my way to recommend. And then last but not least, I got an arc of Game On by Keith Stevens. I think this comes out in September, so it's actually quite a while away. But this is, if you've watched the film on Tubi, the film that Noah Beck is in, that Sidelined, the QB and Me, where he's a quarterback and she's a cheerleader. It's basically like that. That's the tropes of it. She's moved from the UK to Nashville to be a cheerleader there for the summer. He's a quarterback. They both don't want any commitment, but they fancy each other. It's just a fun, cute, spicy reading experience. So if you want that, then I highly recommend it. Really, just a fun read, honestly. Really fun, easy read. And I liked the fact that it kind of just got into it straight away and it wasn't too overly descriptive. Sometimes I think books just like explain things too much. Like the character will walk into a house and every square foot of the house is explained in great detail. I don't give a shit. Like, politely, I actually don't care about what wallpaper is in that room. Do you know what I mean? So I liked that it wasn't like that. It wasn't overly descriptive. I know that's like a bit of a random thing to say, but it's just something that irks me, and it didn't happen in this book, so I was very glad about that. And that is my March reading wrap up. So I think that was 15 books. I'm not entirely sure. A lot of romance this month. I think next month I need some fantasy in my life, because this month was a lot of romance. But overall, really, really good month. Favourite book of the month was Blood and Steel for sure. Highly, highly recommend that. Let me know in the comments what you read in March, what your favourite book that you read in March was, what you're planning to read in April. Just let me know it all. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, put the notification bell on, all of that stuff that everyone says on YouTube. And hopefully I will see you next time, and I will be more consistent at posting on YouTube in April. Thanks for watching. Bye!